Hello, well, it's Scott Picken, CEO and founder of Wealth Migrate and chairman of the Global Wealth Group. It's time for another weekly Wealth Insight. And I wanted to do this one on the computer because there's some things that I want to share with you. Now, I've sat back and I've watched for the last couple of weeks around what has been going on. And one of the things that I want to say, and I'm wearing my t-shirt that says Futurist, I learned this from a guy called Ray Kurzweil many years ago. And one of the things that wealthy people do is that they've got insight. They've got insight into where the world's going. They've got insight into trends and seeing an opportunity. You know, and an example of that is Rockefeller, when he could see that oil and petroleum was going to be the future, and he went out and created an empire around it. Carnegie, that went out and did it with steel. JP Morgan, that went out and did it with investment banking. Henry Ford, that went and did it with cars. And even more recently, the billionaire lady that's only in her 30s that created Spanx, which was the outfit that women love to wear. And these are all people that can foresee trends. And I could go on and on. Bill Gates with computers, Steve Jobs with all the things that he created. But what Ray Kurzweil said, which I think is so interesting, is you've got to look for multiple trends that are all intersecting at the same time. And then at that interflection point is where the real opportunity lies. Now, this Wealth Insight is all about that. And one of the things that I think most people are weak at is noticing when very important events actually happen around the world. So if we look at this, what happened in the last couple of weeks is this whole story of Reddit and GameStop and Robinhood, and the fact that there's five really big trends. So I'll actually put this link down below. But in simple terms, what is really important here is that when you look at it, you know, the retail investors, in this article, it talks about there's 50 million retail investors that used to be irrelevant. And now they've become very relevant because they have a voice. They can speak on Reddit. They can invest on crowdfunding platforms. They can invest on the likes of Robinhood. But also what happened is the us and them equation. And unfortunately, anywhere in the world, the haves and the have-nots, the us and them, the French Revolution of the 1700s, eventually people get pissed off. And that's what's been happening. That's why we've got things like, you know, all the campaigns against Wall Street and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Now, those are physical campaigns, but they're not actually as powerful as the online one, because the online voice around the world is really, really quite significant. So if you look through here, you know, it talks about why this has happened. It talks about the Trump era. It talks about the rise of a changing new guard. It talks about the fact that populism, like people have had enough. Retail investors want to participate. You know, I talk all the time about the 99% want to be able to invest like the top 1%. They've had enough of being left out of the party. You know, the fact that the governments are going to try and keep up with this. Now, I know that this doesn't work hugely well. And if I just stop sharing here, this doesn't work hugely well, but you know, there's a whole bunch of articles here. How am I going to get this to work on me? There we are. In the newspaper around GameStop and what is actually happening. And if you go on to read this article, you know, it says the GameStop saga says the Wall Street is entering a new world of disorder. On this other page, it talks about Robinhood and the drama of Robinhood and the fact that they were supposed to be listing this year. And, you know, now they basically used to be the man. I mean, the very thing, Robinhood robbed from the rich to give to the poor. And now they're out there protecting big business. And then it also talks at the bottom here about GameStop routing losing $26 billion. And that's really interesting because people put their money in at huge risk in terms of what is actually taking place. Just by the way, while I've got this article or this newspaper live here, and sorry, I've got to get my angles right so you can actually read it. Oh, what's going on now? Why is it not doing it? Down the bottom here, you can actually see that it's all about, hang on, I've got to get my angles right. My computer's messing me around today. Anyway, it's all about Debenhams and what's actually happening with Debenhams and COVID and real estate. So, you know, what this Wealth Insight's about is about being able to spot trends. You know, I know it's probably quite a controversial thing to say, but in the 1930s, there were a lot of signs in Germany that things were going really badly for the minorities, whether they were the Jewish population, whether they were other country, other citizens that were not from Germany, etc. And what I think a lot of people are not good at is spotting these trends and seeing where they're going to evolve, whether that's good or bad. So whether you take this article here, or you take the very next one, which is the financial revolution is here, and there's this whole debate around what is happening with cryptocurrency. I mean, Elon Musk put in $1.5 billion into Bitcoin last week. Bitcoin went to $47,000. I don't know if people are aware, but it was as low as $3,000 just last year. This one here is talking about, you know, Elon Musk and how effectively Robinhood has gone down. Now, what's really interesting with Robinhood is that it was one of the, I think it was the most successful financial app in the Google store. And it got a rating of 1, and it had 100,000 negative reviews. And then Google went and deleted them, which is why DeFi is becoming such a big thing, because people have just had enough of this command and control, and this whole decentralization is really, really taking place. And why this is also important is that I don't have time in this Wealth Insight to go into all of this, but I've got Wealth 5.0 behind me. You can see it here. And at the top, you've got purpose. So why are people getting so agitated? Well, the number one thing is they not only want to make a profit, and they not only want businesses to make a profit. You know, Blackstone is the biggest investor in the world, and they are now only investing in companies with ESGs, which is environmental, sustainability, and good governance. And what's really, really interesting is that it's all about purpose. The individual investors want purpose, the businesses want purpose. Then in terms of creating wealth, it's about your creativity. In terms of high touch, it's how many people are you actually touching? How many people's lives are you adding value to? High tech, it's all about using the technology. And then it's all about this digitization, this digital layer that's happening. It's about future-proofing. It's about creating better lives for individuals. Now, if you cannot see the major trends that are happening around the world, then you're going to have a very difficult decade ahead. Like, I pretty much guarantee it. It's like you are an ox wagon rider, or you're fixing, you know, horses, and suddenly cars come along. Like, these trends are happening. And this Wealth Insight is about the ability to spot trends. It's about noticing when things like these articles from GameStop are game changers. Now, is GameStop itself a significant event in terms of the fact that the share price went up and it went down? No, not at all. In fact, people lost quite a lot of money, including the hedge funds, which is fantastic. But it's a significant event. It's a pivotal event because it's just showing you the winds of change. And this Wealth Insight is that if you want to be wealthy, you need to be able to spot these trends. And if you're not very good at spotting them yourself, then get part of a mastermind. If you want to be successful and you try to do it on your own, you've got less than a 50% chance of succeeding. If you do it with a husband, a partner, a friend, you've got about a 60% chance of succeeding. If you do it in a mastermind, a like-minded mastermind, you've got a higher than 70% chance of succeeding. To give you an example of that, I hadn't even heard of GameStop, and my uncle got hold of me. Now, my uncle is a very successful stockbroker, lives in Australia, and he got hold of me. And there's a classic example of someone that is completely staying on top of the trends. And then as part of our inner circle, I'm part of a whole bunch of groups. It's one of the greatest gifts I've got in my life. And people are sharing great information all the same time. So I don't have to go out and accumulate all the best information. I go, and on my groups, in my masterminds, I get curated quality information, which allows me to stay on top of the trends of what's happening around the world. If you're interested, click below and you can join our inner circle and become part of these same masterminds so that you can learn and grow and become a global citizen. Anyway, that's my weekly Wealth Insight. I know it was a little bit longer this week, but obviously there are some massive winds of change that are taking place around the world, and I want you to be aware of them. If you like this, subscribe to the channel. We try to bring these out weekly, and most importantly, we want you to share them with your friends, because what's so important to us is that when you talk about these type of things, I believe that the financial revolution and financial inclusion is going to happen in the next decade. And it's a 6-step process. The first is self-belief. The second is knowledge. The third is accessibility. The fourth is a system. The fifth is accountability. And finally, the sixth is actually getting the wealth and the freedom. And what are these videos about? They're all about step 1 and step 2. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next week. Cheers.